And the local stories you care about.
WLBB, Carrollton, News Talk, 1330, FM 106.3.
Answered the call to serve and joined the Georgia Army National Guard. Later commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. For 13 years, Singleton was an active duty officer flying Apache helicopters in and out of combat. Philip Singleton was deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan with the 101st Airborne Division, where he earned 2 Bronze Star medals and 5 Air Medals for his bravery in combat. Philip Singleton returned home to Georgia, married to his childhood sweetheart Julie. Today they're raising their 4 children to know and love the Lord. A rock-solid conservative, for Philip Singleton, the fight continues, taking on radical liberals and members of his own party when they get in the way of the America First agenda. Pro-life, author of the Second Amendment Protection Act, championed Georgia's Save Girls Sports Act, said no to critical race theory in our classrooms, opposing any effort to defund the police. And Philip Singleton will hold Joe Biden accountable for the drugs and crime streaming into our country across the southern border. Author of Georgia's Anti-Sanctuary City Act, Philip Singleton is committed to finishing Donald Trump's border wall. America is on the brink. We need an American soldier, conservative warrior, a proven winner who can put America first again. Philip Singleton for Congress.
Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gradick, your host. Delighted to have you with us. We're very honored to have in studio today former State Representative Philip Singleton, candidate for U.S. Congress, 3rd Congressional District. SingletonforCongress.com is the website. We're also honored to have in studio his wife, Julie. And we're on the Facebook page, and we've just presented on the Facebook page a video from Philip's website. So good morning, Philip and Julie.
Good morning.
Good. Philip Singleton was born and raised in Georgia's 3rd Congressional District 9 days after September 11th. He joined the Georgia Army National Guard and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army following his graduation from Georgia State University. For the next 13 years, Singleton was an active duty officer flying Apache longbow helicopters in and out of combat. During his military career, Singleton deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan with the 101st Airborne Division, where he earned 2 Bronze Star medals and 5 Air Medals for his bravery in combat, and was advanced to the rank of Major. In addition to his military training, Philip has obtained 2 master's degrees and a top-secret clearance. He has a Master's of Aeronautical Science from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and a Master of International Relations from Webster University, and graduated both programs with honors. Philip spent 7 years serving overseas, and he and his family have lived in several states across the U.S., as well as Germany and South Korea. He's an unapologetic conservative and no stranger to taking on the radical left or the establishment. In the State House, he led the fight to protect innocent human life, safeguard our constitutional rights and elections, save girls' sports from the woke left, and protect our children from street gangs, predators, and critical race theory. He never backed down when our liberties or principles were at stake, even when it meant standing up to members of his own party. Philip currently serves as Chief of Staff to Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick. He's married to his childhood sweetheart, Julie, and has 4 children, Timothy, Denver, Tyler, and Emma. They are members of Crossroads Church in Sharpsburg, Georgia. So again, welcome. We're going to start out with Julie. I think that's appropriate.
Perfect.
Yeah, appropriate. What's it like being married to Philip Singleton, candidate for U.S. Congress?
It's like every day is like Disney.
Every day is like Disney. Is
No.
that good or bad? Is that good or bad? I don't know.
Wild and crazy and a lot of fun. No, I love it. I'm always up for a good adventure. I think that's kind of the epitome of our life together. It's just always been one adventure after another. And so,
well, you're very much involved in the campaign and have been in his political career forever. So So,
Absolutely.
I mean, what kind of role do you play in that regard?
Well, that's a great question. I kind of do a little bit of everything. Mostly, though, I love just being his cheerleader. I always tell people my favorite thing to do is watch Philip do his thing. He is so good at not just working a crowd, but being able to just communicate in a genuine way and in a way that's both intellectual and the layman can understand. And so I just really love being able to watch him do his thing and help support in whatever way that I can. And so sometimes that looks like taking care of the kids and holding down the fort. Sometimes it looks like, helping him with debate prep or, whatever it is, making sure that he's got the right outfit
A little bit
on.
of everything. Yeah, making sure I put my jacket on. And it's a family affair. So,
Absolutely.
our whole lives we've served. We started dating we started dating in high school, although we met in middle school.
That's right.
But it's like every time God's opened a door, it's been a conversation with Julie and I in a prayer, and just we've done everything together. So I don't view it as I'm running for Congress. I view it as we're running for Congress.
That's right.
Well, the first question, what we want to do is I'm just going to ask you this first question, and then we're going to take a break, and we'll jump into border security and the economy, et cetera. But why are you running this time around? There's some competition this time.
There's always competition, but you're not running. I don't run against people. I run for something. So I'm just an American soldier and a conservative warrior, and I have been my whole life, and I've always fought for liberty. And the country was worth fighting and dying for in the Army. That's why I joined the Army when we were under attack from terrorists. And then in 2019, when I ran for the state house, I felt like we were still under attack, but this time from within politically. And I think we're still under attack right now from the woke left and the apathetic right. And anytime our country and our freedoms and liberties are under attack, our family's we're gonna serve, and we're gonna enter the fray and then fight for liberty and freedom. So that's why we're running. We think we're the best position to be able to actually, make you a little bit more free than you were yesterday, and that's an important thing and worth fighting for.
Before we go to break, I guess we're all here because Drew Ferguson decided he wasn't going to run again. As I recall, I think you ran against him one time, I think it was 2018 or thereabouts. He would never come on this program. We tried for 7 years, a dozen or more times. What kind of grade would you give him for his 7 years?
Well, obviously he gets a failure for that alone, right? I mean, when he's not coming to talk to you is just it's crazy talk. But look,
never happened before. I've been doing this quite a while.
it's just look there. So we had this question in the forum we did yesterday in Fayette County. It's like, why are you the best candidate for this? I don't like that question. It's just like I don't like Grade and Drew. Drew and I are very different in our priorities and what we think a good representation is. If you're a limited government conservative, he was one of the few. More Republicans voted against this last omnibus bill this last week than voted for it. He voted for it. So we're different type of conservatives completely. So to me, anybody that voted for that minibus that just passed last week gets a failing grade.
Our guest this morning is State Representative Philip Singleton, candidate for U.S. Congress, singletonforcongress.com, along with his wife Julie, and we'll be back with more after this.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
The AP Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined advanced placement curriculum track to earn a series of distinctions upon graduation. This journey enables academically prepared students to pursue college-level studies throughout 17 AP courses in 5 subject categories while enrolled at OMA. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Good morning. Welcome to Back to the Community Voice. State Representative former State Rep Philip Singleton's in studio, candidate for U.S. Congress, singletonforcongress.com, along with his high school sweetheart and now wife, Julie. Friday in Moscow, 133 people were killed, hundreds injured in a terrorist attack on a concert by ISIS-K. Is Biden's open door policy leaving America vulnerable to a terrorist attack?
Yes. It's an understatement. It's the border is a disaster. That's why the House passed H.R. 2 last year. But the border is look. So I remember flying combat missions on the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, right there in the FATA, the Federal Administrative Tribal Area. And then I was stationed in Korea on the border. So I spent a lot of my military career securing borders that were not the American border, and yet we have the American border is wide open for criminals and terrorists and illegal aliens. And we have a major problem with immigration. And so, for me, a lot of people try to go visit the border or they watch it on TV. It's personal to me because I've experienced what it means to secure a border and the complexities of that. And so, you don't have a free country. We don't have a free country if we don't have if our borders aren't secure. And we're spending something about $150 million a year. $billion a year, and just taking care of these illegal immigrants once they get into the country. That doesn't count the terroristic threats. So we got to secure our border immediately.
As Chief of Staff of Congressman McCormick, it's really good to have you in so that I can ask these type of questions, which are a little bit different because you got the inside baseball kind of thing. We hear a lot from the Democrats that Biden cannot do anything until we get a bipartisan bill passed. Yet he was the one who undid, I think it was 94 executive orders by Trump. So what's the truth here?
Oh, there's always, in politics, the truth is always somewhere in between, or normally somewhere in between. Not in this case. In this case, the conservatives that are talking about this are right. So we passed H.R. 2 last year, but what Biden... There's already statutes in place in federal law that are being ignored by the DOJ and ignored by DHS. That if the Biden's executive orders, which is just for those that don't really understand executive orders, that's just instructions to a department. That's what an executive order is. So he's just telling his departments how to behave. If they would just enforce the laws that are in place, the border would get closed. There's other policies like Remain in Mexico and our asylum policies that have to be. The Biden administration has torn those apart, essentially. So they don't need a single act of Congress to fix the border. They also don't need more money. That's the big argument that the Biden administration say, give me more money. What they want more money for is they want more money to transport illegal immigrants to Democrat-heavy districts so that those Democrats will get counted, so that those immigrants will get counted in the census and those Democratic districts will grow in congressional numbers. It's a very strategic plan on their part to try to grow the voting power of the Democrats. Don't let your listeners be mistaken. The entire reason the Democrats do these things is for political power. That's what their objective is.
Because I understand the immigrants will be counted on the next census.
That's right.
Which will increase the representation of the blue cities if they congregate there. Correct.
Which is why they ship them there. Yeah, so it's intentional. That's why Biden just recently got caught shipping people to New York City. So it's very intentional where they're putting them, and it's... So about 3 million is what the estimate is from the last census, which that's almost 4 congressional seats. So when we've got a 2-seat majority in the House, you got to realize the Democrats' illegal immigration policies, for the last 4 years, have led to 4 seats going to Democrats because of illegal aliens. So they don't get to vote, but their numbers get counted in the census when they do what's called reapportionment.
We see the stories about they're actually flying people in and just bypassing the whole border thing. Is that true?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's taxpayer funded?
Of course. Well, everything the Democrats do is taxpayer funded. You're paying for it. So the Biden administration thanks you for paying your taxes.
But what in the border security bill, you mentioned H.R. 2, what tools were in there that would increase border security that maybe he doesn't have at the moment?
Well, there's no tools in H.R. 2 that the Biden administration can't do through executive order, or there's very few. What it does is it codifies into statute things that used to be executive order. So Remain in Mexico is one good example. So reinforcing the asylum policy. So when you're doing asylum it's supposed to be the first country that you come to, you seek asylum in that country. But obviously we have people coming from Honduras. We have some coming from Brazil now because of recent things in Brazil. So you got people coming from South America, and they're passing through multiple countries, to include Mexico, obviously, to seek asylum in the United States. And the asylum provisions are what the Biden administration is using to let people in. And so what H.R. 2 primarily does is it took things that were in the executive function, they were just executive orders, and they codified them into statute, codified them into law. In other words, if the Biden administration didn't do those things, it would actually be violating federal law.
Again, I think it's good to have you as the chief of staff so that we can kind of get a real accurate view. We hear that basically the components, the precursors of fentanyl coming from communist China go to Mexico, where there are 2,000 to 3,000 Chinese who are formulating fentanyl, selling it to cartels, and it comes across the border, killing 100,000 Americans every year and approximately 24 Carroll Countyans every year. Is that true?
Yes. All the intel that we have says that that's true, yes.
So basically China is at war with America and we just don't realize it?
Well, China is I love how you ask the complicated questions. So the political answer is yes, because we try to oversimplify everything because we want sound bites, and we think voters are just need a simple enemy, and so that if we agree on the same enemy, then you'll support me. It's much more complex than that. So China doesn't. Largely, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, controls most of the facets of the Chinese ecosystem. So they control the military, they control a lot of their businesses. They don't have private industry, but China doesn't necessarily attack the United States, but they always act in their own self-interest. So China is where their self-interest aligns with the United States, like some of their Africa policies, then you would say that they're being friendly to us, but they're not being friendly to us. What they're doing is they're acting in their own interest. And then oftentimes what you see, especially with intellectual property, they're in opposition to us because it's to their benefit to steal our intellectual property and to resell those goods. And so the fentanyl trade is they're doing that globally. So globally, there are criminal networks within the Chinese Communist Party that are supported by the government that are infiltrating all over the world. The Mexico fentanyl crisis is just one facet of that. It's not the only thing they're doing, and so it's more complex. But the short answer would be, yes, they are doing it. Yes, they are attacking American citizens, and the reality is, that goes away if we shut the border. If we do what we're supposed to do at the border, then that problem goes away.
Okay, I want to certainly we want to get into the economy. So why don't we go ahead? Well, before we do, let me ask you this one thing. It was kind of odd, I thought, in the State of the Union that President Biden started out with Ukraine. As a major in the U.S. Army, we're spent, I guess, so far over $100 billion for Ukraine. Mm-hmm. I understand that 2/3 of that goes back to American military-industrial industries. What's your take on what we're doing in Ukraine?
Yeah, it's not really that much that comes back to us. It's about $45 billion comes back through the national security process, but we've given about 1/3 of that has gone to the International Monetary Fund through the World Bank. So the Biden administration, by the way, just so your listeners are clear, and we can talk about this after the break if it's a long answer, but the Democrats in the 117th Congress spent $116 billion. The Republicans in the 118th Congress have not spent a penny yet on Ukraine. Okay. Actually, $300 million that just passed in this minibus that just passed last week is the first actual money that they've spent in Ukraine, and that was for aid and oversight. And so $300 million versus $116 billion, it's not even close. But the short story is we shouldn't spend a single taxpayer dollar on funding Ukraine. So Putin is bad. We don't want him to win. We don't want them to be able to take over Ukraine, and we shouldn't be spending American taxpayer dollars on it. Those two things can exist at the same time from the same ideological standpoint. A lot of people think that those are in conflict, and they're not.
Our guest this morning is former state rep Philip Singleton, candidate for U.S. Congress, 3rd District, Singleton for Congress, and we'll be back with more after this.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
The customized academic scholar journey at Oak Mountain Academy is individually designed to provide students with a personalized, clearly defined academic track that earns the student a series of distinctions upon graduation. This journey enables academically driven students to pursue a focused, rigorous course of study personalized to their wants and desires. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
We're back with the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. We have former state rep Philip Singleton in studio, candidate for U.S. Congress, singletonforcongress.com, along with his wife, Julie. We're on Facebook and the News Talk 1330 Facebook app. I do not believe we're on TikTok. Are we on TikTok? Anybody
You better
know?
not be on TikTok.
We're on TikTok. All right, let me, two economy bills, or questions rather. Fiscal year, you tell me if I'm wrong on this, because you'll know, you should know. Fiscal year 2019, the budget was $4.4 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
The population has increased since 2019, less than 2%. And that's another story. Since then, the fiscal year budget is now $7.3 trillion, which is a 63% increase, right?
Yeah, government.
A dollar in 2020 is worth only 85% of its a dollar in 2020 now is worth 85% of its value. And we're $34 trillion in debt.
And growing.
So, all revenue bills start in the House, according to Article 4 of the Constitution. Why in the world cannot the U.S. House of Representatives put a stop to all this?
They can.
Why don't they?
They choose not. Well, you're going to have to ask Congressman Ferguson that question, but because he's voted for all of them. It's a... you got 100. I think it was 109 Republicans voted against this last minibus. We're getting close to where we have the majority of the majority, so in the Republican conference. But the simple answer is lack of courage. Lack of courage from Republican members to vote for bad bills and to stand up against runaway budgets. You know, we're still we had the opportunity last year to change course for the country. And we didn't, and we fought in the House. We were working on 12 appropriations bills, and then Matt Gaetz, ousted the Speaker of the House with some of his compadres. And since then, we have gone significantly in the opposite direction when it comes to our budgetary policy. So we had a chance to fix it, but we're not. And you didn't even talk about that $7.5 trillion that we're spending. We're spending over $1 trillion a year for the first time in debt servicing, right, which is insane. We're less than a decade away from not being able to pay our own debt servicing bills. In other words, for the layman out there, all of the money you bring in is not enough to pay your credit card payment.
When is the year, there's a year where the interest payment exceeds the entire GDP? I think it's 2050 or something.
Yeah, it's faster than, it's coming up closer than that. That's a ever-changing number, depending on how much we spend. But we're doing our best. We spent extra with COVID. We spent about $2 trillion a year extra with COVID, and the goal this year was to roll back to pre-COVID spending, but we haven't done that.
The House passed the omnibus bill, which you referenced earlier, a $1.2 trillion bill on Friday, with nothing regarding border security and, of course, nothing regarding Ukraine. Our neighbor, Marjorie Taylor Greene, filed a motion to oust Speaker Johnson, saying it was clearly a Democratic bill funding abortion, full-term clinics, trans policies aimed at children, etc. What's your thoughts on that?
I think she's right.
You do? So you would support the ouster of Speaker Johnson?
I think it's more complicated than that, but I think he's probably going to be removed. You know, my boss now is Congressman Rich McCormick. You know, he stood in opposition to the bill and he voted against it. He's voted against every CR or minibus. So I mean, it's a serious problem, and I think Mike Johnson's in trouble. I think he's going to look.
Well, critics of this move, because anything MTG does, you know, is like a firestorm, but. Critics of this say that, well, we're threatening now the House majority, Republican majority.
Well, the Republican majority is under threat anyway. Like that's kind of, no offense to whoever says that, is that's a stupid excuse. The Republican majority is under threat anyway. And by the way, you shouldn't make choices on what's right and wrong based off of the consequences. That's political BS. What we need to care about is what's good policy. I don't like the vacate the chair process. I don't like Republican infighting. I don't think we should eat our own. I think we need to fight behind closed doors. But I also understand the frustration for those that are fiscal conservatives that are really pushing hard. It's like this bill was a larger discretionary spending package than we got under Pelosi. And so it makes you wonder, okay, you know, with friends like these, who needs enemies? The Republicans are just as apt to spend more than they should as the Democrats are. They pick different projects to spend it on, but, you know, for your listeners to be clear, and I've talked about this on my campaign for Congress because a lot of people just don't seem to get it. There's a lot of shiny objects out there. Debt, our national debt, is the single greatest threat to our country, period. No question.
You're not supposed to say that.
It's the truth.
You're not supposed to say it. Nobody ever says that.
Well, Leo Mullen said it back in 2011. I don't know if you guys remember. He's the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs Staff. I don't know if you guys remember when Congress came to a screeching halt and everybody was throwing flags under sequestration when the debt was going to go from 14 trillion to 15 trillion. Like, can you imagine that argument now? We're over 34. We're going to approach 36 by the end of next fiscal year, and we were screaming over 15.
But when people bring this up, and you talk to candidates for Congress or even congressmen, basically they tell you, well, there's not anything we can do because you've got Social Security, you got the entitlements, and we can't touch that.
But that's a lie. They can touch that.
Oh, wait a minute, that's a lie.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a lie. Straight from Satan. Look, there's Congress touches it every single year. The reason, have you ever heard the term? Have your listeners ever heard the term mandatory spending?
Not exactly mandatory.
They say discretionary and mandatory.
Discretion. I never heard mandatory.
Yeah, so discretionary is what they say they can touch, and
which
mandatory
is minuscule, so they can't do anything about it.
It's like 27% of the budget, right? And then they say mandatory spending. It's not mandatory. For all your listeners and everybody else, it's not mandatory. They have to reauthorize it every year.
I hate to interject this, but Did you find the same thing in the state government?
Yeah, which is why I voted against the budget so frequently. Which, by the way, the leadership didn't like very much. That's why they drew me out of my district. But the establishment and the elite, the elite class. You have one in Atlanta, you have one in Washington. They cannot stand the idea of people getting elected to office and then actually representing the people who sent them to Congress or sent them to office, which is who we're supposed to represent. It's representative government. They expect you to kiss the ring, to look up to the lobbyists and the special interest group, to get money from them, get elected, and then serve them.
But if you don't kiss the ring, then you're ostracized.
Yeah, that's true, and to some people that's a problem. To me, it's never really been that big of a problem. You guys have met Julie. Like, I've got the love of my wife and the love of my kids, and
what else matters?
The love of my Savior. So it's like the rest is just kind of gravy.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I have a lot of friends in the State House. Even though I was on the outs with the former Speaker, I have a lot of friends because I don't go out and I don't come on this show and tell you how bad this person or that person is. It's not about ranting against people. It's about fighting for policies that make sense.
I think it's important when we talk about the larger budget and the debt, the $34 trillion, but we also need to talk about just in the micro level, that inflation hits people, whether it's in the gas tank or the grocery store. What do you see going on in that level of the economy that is problematic?
Well, inflation's about to get way worse. So everybody,
really?
So hold on to your hats. So the Fed is gonna, Joe Biden and his cronies are gonna drop interest rates 4 times this year. They're because of our inflationary policy and the way that we've been spending. So, not to get into the economics of it, but you got to a little bit. So, just Reader's Digest version is when you inject a whole bunch of money into the economy by the Fed printing, putting over a third of the current money in circulation has been injected in the last fiscal year. Right, a third of the American dollars in circulation were created in the last year. It's insane the amount of money they're printing. So what they're doing is
wait. That's not COVID related.
No, it's not.
Really?
We're not talking about federal spending. We're talking about money and actually supply put into the correct currency.
Okay.
So what's happening is without an increase in services to match the increase in financial resources, it drives inflation. That inflation continues to drive until you have a recessionary event or a recessionary function that relevels services with supply. That's a guarantee. What's not guaranteed is how big is that recession going to be. There's always there's ebbs and flows in the economy. So we know recession is coming. What Joe Biden is doing, he's going to reduce interest rates 4 times this year. So it's to give the illusion to the American people of a stable and growing economy. But what he knows it's going to do is it's going to drive us into it's going to force the recession. His only hope is that recession hits next January, not in August.
We only got 5 minutes left, but I'd be derelict if I didn't ask you the following question. Whether you love or you hate Trump, trying to throw your political opponent in jail using the tools of government to do so, not only is really election interference, but it threatens the rule of law critical to maintaining an orderly and safe society. I recall Woodrow Wilson threw Eugene Debs into jail for 6 years or so. Is that an overstatement? I mean, are we playing a game that people are not, because of the emotion around Trump, that we don't really realize what we're doing?
No, I mean, I guess it depends on the way you phrase the question to make sure I fully understand it. But essentially, what I think you're asking is it accurate to say that the Biden administration is trying to throw their political opponents in jail? And the answer is yes. They're trying to use every level of government to attack conservatives. So it's what's interesting to me, honestly, is have you seen the left's new rhetoric? So the left's rhetoric right now is if Trump gets elected again, he's gonna weaponize government against liberals, which is only funny to someone like me that's in the political world that does this every day, because they're threatening. They're saying the danger of Trump is that he's going to go do what Biden is already doing. Don't elect this guy because he's going to do what we're doing, but he might do it better. They're absolutely doing that. The fact that we've got January 6 prisoners that are still in jail, that haven't had due process and rule of law, like our DOJ and our FBI, they're really struggling, and we've got to get President Trump elected in November, and we got to clean house.
I wish we had more time, but Glenn Beck is waiting in the wings, and he's, Glenn just says, I've got to talk. So, Julie, you brought us into this. Take us out. What's your thoughts on the state of the country and being so close to this every day?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Honestly, if I could sum it all up, I think that we need, Philip talked earlier about the infighting and all. We need more strategy. We need more people who understand that, because we need principle and strategy to come together in order to make things happen. And that's something that I see a huge lack of, which is why I'm really excited about Philip.
Along those lines, we hear the term fight more often than ever before. And we hear people saying we need more bipartisanship. So what's the answer to all of that?
I think that's the difference between compromise and cooperation. Being able to cooperate across party lines is critical, but being able to do it without compromising your principles, I think, is also critical.
Is it possible in this environment?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It is?
Absolutely. It takes strategy. It takes thoughtfulness. And it takes not caring who gets the credit for things.
Yeah, that's you can get a lot done if you don't care about getting credit for
That's
it.
a Ronald Reagan quote,
It was. Now it's a Philip quote.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, very good. Former State Representative Philip Singleton, candidate for U.S. Congress, 3rd District, along with his wife, Julie. And thank you for both coming in. Former member of the Georgia House, now trying to make it to the U.S. House as a congressman, currently chief of staff. for Congressman McCormick. And the website, most importantly, is singletonforcongress.com, correct?
That's right.
And we were on Facebook Live. We weren't on TikTok, and I really didn't get ask you much about TikTok. Maybe next time.
Next time. Let's do it again.
And you can go back and see the Singleton video at the beginning of the Facebook feed on the radio station. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsors, Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.